morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, well, there's a new Toxtricity that we need to be having a little bit of a chat about. Now, it's technically the first Toxtricity, although we have seen the V which is coming in the box, so I'll let you decide which came first. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. The important thing is, we're getting a new Toxtricity! Yay! And it's looking kinda good. Now, our translation here does come from the lovely David Hockman over at limitlesstcg.com/translations. And if we start off with the basics, we've got 130 HP, which is good. This is what we want from Stage 1 Pokemon. This is what we see from things like Naganadel. It is on the higher end, so yeah. All in favour, ladies and gentlemen. All in favour. We have a retreat cost here of 2, which is slightly higher than we might like, but we've always got Balloon to give us free retreat, so yeah, we're alright. Weakness to fighting. I've said this in a bunch of videos lately. Fighting itself isn't particularly great at the moment, but we've got a whole bunch of stuff like Pikachu and Zekrom that is weak to fighting, which is going to encourage people to play fighting, which is going to end up pretty badly for us. But we're a lightning Pokemon. Now, in terms of weakness, that's not great, though newer water Pokemon like Lapras VMAX that weren't ice in the game will end up being weak, which is nice. But really, it's just the tricks. It's Electro Power to do extra damage. It's Thunder Mountain Prism Star to reduce our attack cost by 1. It's Tapu Koko Prism Star to accelerate energy. It's a lot to like about being a lightning Pokemon right now. But what does it actually do? Well, according to David, it really is the first attack, which is filling our hearts with joy. According to David, the first attack for Toxtricity here, 1 lightning energy. This attack does 20 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned. For a single energy, this is a pretty nice attack. This will do very nicely indeed. Now, we'll start off with the spreading. We'll get to the poison in a minute, but we'll start off with the spreading. And in terms of the spreading, this is pretty much the best we've got. Now, if we go pre-rotation, we're looking at Tapu Koko, the promo, which for a double colorless energy just did 20 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. And it was a basic, and it had free retreat, and you could pay this for just a single energy, and this was really good. And we liked this a lot, and it saw a huge amount of play. Now, the fact that it was a basic and the fact that it had free retreat, they were two very big things. They were very, very important. Let's be clear about this. They helped immensely. This is a Stage 1, and this has a fairly awkward retreat cost. It ain't perfect, but that's not the point. The point is there's still an awful lot to like about this. Because you see, since we lost Tapu Koko, well, weirdly, in Unified Minds, we got 2 different options. Lurantis is a Stage 1 that, for just a single colorless energy, does 10 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. Cool. But it's only 10 damage. But we also got Noivern, and Noivern for 1 colorless energy does 20 to each of your opponent's Pokemon and has free retreat. Well, this has 10 more HP than Noivern, and it poisons the active. So that seems pretty good to me. Now, we do need to mention this is for a lightning, not a colorless, so it's nowhere near as techable. Yeah, sure, we've got that Aurora energy, which is 1 of any energy, but you got to discard a card from your hand to use it. And if you don't want to do the discard, Rainbow energy does the same thing, but puts a damage counter on. So this is all well and good. But the lightning is a bit of a pain. But let's say you're willing to use the lightning. This is just better, because you're getting the poison. You've got the extra 10 damage. Mew is a problem, because Mew will prevent all the bench damage. But Mew has seen a little bit less play lately. It's still there. It's still in a bunch of decks. But spreading isn't really there. Having said that, Mew has seen a little bit less play lately because Pikachu and Zekrom seen a little bit less play. With Sword and Shield, Pikachu and Zekrom are seeing a lot more play, which means that you can probably expect Mew to start coming around a bit. You see, the problem is it's kind of awkward when your opponent is able to hit 170 damage to the bench. That gets pretty awkward pretty quickly. So that could trip you up. But this just helps you set up your opponent. This just helps you to get a bunch of damage on the field, ready to get some big attacks later. Obviously, there's a good combo here with Garchomp and Giratina, but the reality is that the typings and the energy costs and all of that don't really match, so you're probably not going to be using it. I mean, there is a strong argument that if you want to spread damage, you should just use a combination of Roxy and Weezing. Roxy lets you discard 2 Pokemon from your hand and draw 3 cards for each one discarded. And Weezing, if discarded using Roxy, does 1 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. Coughing will also do the trick, but Coughing is a basic and you can start with it, which is why generally we want to stick to Weezing. Weezing tends to be the better option here. But there's also the poison. You see, you're doing 20 to all your opponent's Pokemon plus poisoning the active, and at this stage things get really quite nice. Because let's not forget that in Sword and Shield we got that new Toxicroak. And Toxicroak means that poison Pokemon take an extra 20 damage between turns. So now all of a sudden we're not talking 10 damage between turns, we're talking 30 damage between turns. But that's if there's 1 Toxicroak. If there's 2 Toxicroak, we're talking 50 damage between turns, etc, etc. And this is where we can really start to get a little bit of fun here. Because now we're doing quite a lot of damage to the active while spreading. And here's the other thing we really need to focus on here. The resources you're using here to play Toxtricity are not exactly huge. We're talking about a stage 1 Pokemon and a single basic energy. I mean, if you really want to use Thunder Mountain Prism Star, you don't even need the basic energy, but there are better options for it. And then, of course, we've got Electro Power to do extra damage to the active. And when you build in the poison and the Electro Power and the spreading, actually, this is pretty good. Leave it there for a couple of turns, do a bit of spreading, and you know what? When it goes down, you've given up a single prize. That's all right. This is a really nice single prize Pokemon. Now, when we get to the second attack, my enthusiasm starts to wane rather significantly. 1 lightning, 2 colorless energy, 90 damage. No. We can do better. I mean, look, we've got Twin Energy. Twin Energy's really nice. It's double colorless energy, but for non-GX, non-V Pokemon, fine. And you can use Tapu Koko to get the energy on there, or you can use Thunder Mountain Prism Star so you don't need the lightning energy, and you can use Electro Power to do a bit of extra damage, etc. But I don't think that's really the reason why we want to play this. I think this is a really good Pokemon for the first attack, and I think the second attack is too gosh darned expensive. Now, okay, it's not using Twin Energy, but for free energy, Pikachu and Zekrom does 150 damage and accelerates free energy onto the field. For free energy, Tapu Koko V does 200 damage. Can we really say that this is the best use of our free energy? I just don't think it is. Maybe if you're playing Twin Energy and you really want to use that, fine, this is better because the other ones can't use Twin Energy because they don't have 2 colorless and their attack cost, and because their GX is all Vs. But even then, that's it's a weak argument as far as it goes. It's not a particularly strong argument. The second attack is there for an emergency, if you really need it, if you're desperate to do 90 damage. I mean, it'll KO most evolving Pokemon, it'll KO Malamar, it'll KO Jirachi. There are plenty of Pokemon that it will KO. It's just not needed most of the time. But I love the first attack, and that's why I'm giving it between 3 and 4 Wassies. We, of course, don't give half Wassies because that would, of course, be a little bit barbaric. Spreading damage is good. Spreading damage while poisoning your active is even better. Spreading damage while poisoning the active while being able to buff up the attack damage or the poison damage, that leads us to a really interesting, really fun Pokemon. But that's what I think about it. I'd like to know what you think about it. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio. where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WazzyPlays, where you can find out about a whole bunch of games that don't have any Pokemon in, but are very, very good games nonetheless. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.